Hello everyone and welcome to my Vodcast for Pharmacology Assessment Task 2. The scenario that I have been assigned is a 50-year-old man prescribed prednisolone tablets. Alright, let's meet our guy. I'm introducing Mr. George Smith. George is 50 years old and is overall a healthy man. He is 170 centimeters tall with a weight of 70 kilos. Recently, George has been experiencing some pain in his knee joints. He noticed that his knees had been swelling up every now and then. They were red and warm to the touch. George went to his local GP to get a consultation, and after a few tests, he was diagnosed with an autoimmune disease called rheumatoid arthritis. His doctor prescribed him with prednisolone tablets to be taken once daily with food. The doctor has advised him to take it first thing in the morning or before 12 p.m. to avoid any side effects. Why was George prescribed these drugs? Prednisolone is a part of a group of drugs called corticosteroids, specifically a glucocorticoid which has both anti-inflammatory and immunomodulatory properties. Immunomodulatory meaning that it can either downregulate or upregulate the immune system. Glucocorticoids are naturally produced by our adrenal glands. One of the hormones that it produces is cortisol. However, glucocorticoids can also be synthetically made and can either be taken via injections or orally. In George's case, he is taking them orally. Now, let's have a look at some pharmacodynamics of prednisolone. When we talk about the mechanism of a drug, we refer to how the drug acts on the body to produce its effect. Be mindful that the same drug can have different processes in the body and produce the same effect. Glucocorticoids are lipid-soluble, therefore they can travel around the body within the blood, but they cannot travel unbound, or in other words, freely. If they travel freely, they can penetrate any and every cell and therefore cause unnecessary adverse effects. So, it needs to bind to a protein in the blood to transport it around the body to specific locations. This protein is called transportin. Now, in any human being, pain is detected by a range of receptors and chemicals. What happened to George was, at the site of inflammation, which are his knees, the cells within the cytoplasm activated the nuclear factor kappa B. Nuclear factor kappa B then activates the genes in the nucleus to produce mRNA and then activates inflammatory cytokines. Prednisolone is an agonist that binds to glucocorticoid receptors, which are intracellular receptors, that is, they are located within the cytoplasm of the cell. Now, because prednisolone is a lipid-soluble drug, it crosses the cell membrane, binds to glucocorticoid receptors in the cytoplasm, and interacts with nuclear factor kappa B. This then makes it inactive, thus inhibiting the gene transcription of inflammatory genes, therefore suppressing inflammation. That is just one example. Another way that prednisolone works in the body is by inhibiting the production of inflammatory mediators, such as prostaglandins and leukotrienes. In the initial stages of rheumatoid arthritis, white blood cells are attracted to the site of inflammation, and there are a lot of Th1 cytokines being stimulated. But this is not what we want. We use an immunosuppressant like prednisolone to dampen the response and to get a balance between Th1 and Th2 cytokines. Prednisolone is also a cyclooxygenase or COX-2 inhibitor, which means that when it crosses the phospholipid layer of a white blood cell at the site of inflammation, it inhibits the cyclooxygenase or COX-2 enzyme to stimulate the arachidonic acid pathway, inhibit the production of these inflammatory mediators, thus decreasing inflammation and pain. George was prescribed this drug for its anti-inflammatory effect. However, there are many pharmacological effects that George will experience while taking this drug. A few are listed here, such as stomach discomfort, mood swings, increased appetite, dizziness, insomnia, and headaches. Now let's have a look at its pharmacokinetics. George takes prednisolone orally, so it moves through the digestive system and almost all of it is absorbed readily after administration, almost 80 to 100%. Prednisolone is a prodrug, which means that when George ingests the drug, it is actually not active. It has to be metabolized by the body before becoming an active agent. It is reversibly metabolized by the liver to its active form of prednisone. Prednisolone is thought to be metabolized by a subset of the cytochrome P450 enzymes, specifically CYP3A4, to its metabolite prednisone. The volume of distribution for prednisolone is highly dependent on the protein binding properties, as discussed already. Now, prednisolone binds to transcortin in the blood and can also bind to albumin. The problem is that albumin has a lower affinity and high capacity, therefore not becoming saturated, meaning it does not reach the point of maximum concentration. This is why it binds to transcortin instead. It has a high affinity and a low capacity, therefore reaching the maximum point of concentration. At 0.15 milligrams per kilogram, dose of prednisolone has a volume of distribution of 29.3 liters, whilst a 0.3 milligram per kilogram dose has a volume of distribution of 44.2 liters. Therefore, it is highly variable. Prednisolone has a half-life of 2.1 to 3.5 hours, although it is shorter in children and longer in those who have liver disease. The drug also crosses the blood-brain barrier due to its highly lipophilic properties. Most of prednisolone, almost 98%, is eliminated by the urine after ingestion. Adverse drug reactions. Corticosteroids should not be used long-term as they have many harmful effects in the body, even for a generally healthy man like George. Long-term use of prednisolone can cause life-threatening effects. These include damages to the central nervous system, such as euphoria, insomnia, and seizures. Can cause damage to the cardiovascular system, cause arrhythmias and heart failure. The EENT, so ears, eyes, nose, and throat, such as cataracts and glaucoma. The GI tract, it can cause GI irritation. That's why he was told to take it with milk and food. It can cause hypoglycemia, muscle weakness. It can cause acne and other things such as Cushing-God state. When the doctor suggested to terminate the use of prednisolone, it should always be tapered. Thank you for listening. These are my references.